It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show that is a companion to Cordkillers. If you watch Cordkillers, you know that's where we figure out what the streaming services are and where we can get them and how we can watch all this stuff. And then we come here and we talk about the stuff we watched. This week, we'll be talking about Succession, the finale, season 4, episode 10. Ted Lasso, the last 2 episodes, including its series finale, seasons 3, episodes 11 and 12. And Silo, season 1, episodes 5 and 6. I'm Tom Merritt, and along with me, Bryce Castillo, our producer. Hi,
Hello.
Bryce.
Hi, Tom.
And Ashley Esqueda is joining us for Spoilerin time. Thank you, Ashley.
Hey.
Oh my gosh.
Let's talk about Succession, season 4, episode 10, the finale, in which everything was possible until Tom Wamsgams wins in the end. Ashley, did you ever even consider Tom to be a potential winner of this Succession war?
I did. And I'll tell you when that moment was. And it was the season finale last season. Where he's the guy who sells out all 3 of them.
Yep.
And Logan is so proud of him. Mm-hmm. And he gets the coveted kiss from daddy, as it were, with the pat on the shoulder. And I was like, oh man, like Tom's got the chops.
Yeah,
and they laid the groundwork all season. And there was somebody mentioned on Twitter, this is like my favorite thing. At the funeral episode, somebody asks Shiv, like, where's Tom? And she's like, oh, he's at work. And you can see Alexander Skarsgård in the background of that scene light up when he hears that. And if you go back to the first episode of the first season, of the very first episode of the show, Logan gets mad at Kendall for coming to his birthday party because there's a deal happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's all right there. I love good writing like this. Like, man, I hope the WGA gets everything they want because writers deserve everything.
Because we need this.
You really feel all of the characters going exactly right back to where we started with pretty much all of them, right? This is, if you kind of skipped every episode between the first and the last one, you'd go, oh, yep, that's exactly what everyone was doing, right? You had Shiv as the wife of Tom, who was a career
self-interested wife. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have Ken, who his life is his father and his life is that company. And now both
I'm
of
the
those
oldest boy.
I'm the oldest boy. You have
the oldest boy, as it were.
You have Roman, who is totally like numbed himself, has lost himself in terms of what he wants and what he attaches to.
Cajoling fool.
It's great. It's kind of great. Like, we maybe didn't go anywhere, but it was a fun ride.
And it made sense in the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think of it this way. Big organizations like that are very hard to change. The will of the establishment inertia almost always wins, no matter what personalities are involved, unless you have a huge personality like Logan Roy. Logan was able to move against the board's will because he was Logan Roy. Mm-hmm. And because he did nothing but work on that company. The kids are all a piece of Logan. They're his ambition or his emotion or his logic, but none of them are him. And they hammer that home over and over again. So it seems right that in the end, the board wins, the organization wins and picks
his favorite
a safe
child.
Pair of hands, right?
The organization is his favorite child and his favorite child won.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. Yeah. Exactly. And Tom Wamsgams is a corporate pick. He's a safe pair of hands. The market will like him. He won't do anything, that's going to endanger the company the way Kendall would. He's experienced, unlike Shiv. He's unemotional, unlike Roman. And exactly. He will do what they need. Yep.
He will do what they tell him to do.
He will, what did they say? He will
He's
SND.
A pain sponge. He's a pain sponge.
Oh, yeah. He's a pain sponge. He was the sin eater for cruises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was, the kids were merely adopted into it. He was born into
he was born into it. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But it's like he also, like, that would be another that would be another tipping point of like saying, well, I think Tom might win, is that like he was the only one willing to go to prison for Logan.
Yeah.
Like that it's
really
like
go.
the only one who was like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
If that's what
Whereas
that's what needs to be done, I'll do it.
Kendall went the other way, right? He needed his
Yeah.
dad to protect him from going to prison.
And still spurned Logan over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Over and over
Even
again.
post the murder, you know, it's
The other
great.
aspect is
they're
that
children. They're not serious people.
No,
is
they're
that
not serious
Shiv
people.
Shiv acted out of self-interest the way
100
all of them have. She won because she realized it was the only way she could win was to win by marriage.
Well, I saw so many takes being like, "Oh my God, you're telling me that Shiv, this like this amazing independent, like whatever, she's gonna pivot at the last bit." Yes, of course. You know why? Because she saw the writing on the wall,
Yeah.
and she said, She did the same thing her father would have done, which is she chose her bloodline.
Yeah.
Like she chose her bloodline.
She chose her
that
bloodline
kid-
and the winner. She's like, and I
That
know this
kid
guy
is
will
the
win.
winner.
Yeah.
That kid is the winner because that
Yep.
kid is now effectively the eldest boy, if you will,
And she
and
would
will
have
inherit everything.
And also,
and she would have had nothing. She would have had no future with
She would have
Kendall.
had
in charge,
nothing.
And she knew that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and God, that was such a great moment with the three kids in that second boardroom of
Yeah.
when Roman
Heartbreaking.
brings that up, right? It just like falls out of his mouth, and they all know. Like it took me a minute to be like, what is he? Oh, he's talking about blood. Oh, wow! It goes. You realize like all of this stuff, all of the finagling at the end. It's still just. I don't think you would
We're
be
all
good.
BS.
It's blood and genetic. Like that's all it
Yep.
is. It's the choking. Oh my God, Roman definitely could have died in that moment.
Yeah. And I loved the interview with Jeremy Strong at the very end. Like what a powerful shot. It's just like this is like Jeremy Strong describes it like this is a nuclear level event for Kendall.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
nuclear level. This is devastating. It's an extinction level event. That's what he calls it. Extinction level. And man, he played this so well. And Mark Mylod has another great interview. Like I will read anything about like how they put together all these shots and everything. And I just love they walked around with him for a long time. Was it like 90 minutes, like, or an hour or something? And they just walked around Manhattan with him, and they ended up here, and they're like, this is the place we feel we're going to get it. Right. And there was a point where he walked up to the railing and tried to climb over, and Colin like runs over and like pulls him on the other side, and they're like, okay, well, we have to figure out how to do this without like, you actually jumping into the river. But it was like you can see it, you don't even need that shot, right? It's like if he's just sitting there and he's staring out at the water, like he has such a complex relationship with water throughout this entire series.
Yeah.
And it's like you always felt like inevitably that was the end for him. Right there. That shot right there is the end for him. And inevitably over the course of 4 seasons of TV, Kendall belongs at the bottom of the river. Like he just like he has that sad boy inside him who's just, he's broken. He's fundamentally broken. And like he is, and this is everything he's ever lived for is gone.
There's something really great about that last shot too, where his bodyguard is in the background, kind of out of focus, but we haven't spent a lot of time with his bodyguard. So you're like, someone's following him. Is it like there's enough questions of like, it's probably fine, but maybe it's the Sopranos ending. Like we don't exactly know. It could kind of go anywhere, which I think is an exciting thing about this ending, and has been sort of a thing on social media, right? People talking about, oh well, how would you make a sequel series? What next? What's next? But what's so great about Succession is because you can walk away from it with thinking all of these different things. You have all of these different thoughts of what can happen to these characters, and you don't need to waste your time like colliding the superposition of what really happens to Shiv Roy,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
because you know what happens to her, regardless of what the journey is, you know what the destination is. Right. And it's like, I feel like we got that from all of them,
Yeah,
like, and we got that from day one, which was really great.
It felt like an opera, the way the story was
very
told.
much.
Yeah.
Hmm.
very much, and it was so wonderfully written. Like, I mean, just that writing team really, they outdid themselves, and Mark Mylod. Like, so much of the directing, so much of the camera work, like that single shot was on the cruise ship for Connor and Willa's wedding was just like amazing. Like it just that long shot just blew my mind, and like, and just everybody collectively, that was just lightning in a bottle. And I think that's one of the last. Is that one of the last Plepler developed shows?
You may be right about that. I didn't look to make sure, but it's
I
certainly
think
towards
it
the
might
end of his
be.
reign. Yeah.
It's definitely toward the end. So
Hmm.
I think real end of an era feeling with Succession of like, and that reign was, The Sopranos, 6 Feet
Yeah.
Under, The Wire.
Hmm.
I mean, we're talking about like every massive show HBO's ever done in the 2000s was under Plepler. And now he's at Apple on a development deal. He's like developing stuff for Apple.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just really fascinating to me, and it really did feel like, especially because the last episode was on Max, like it really felt like an end of an era, like a real goodbye to a lot of old school HBO. I don't know that we're gonna see this like golden age of
Hmm.
HBO ever
Yeah.
again. I don't know.
It may or may not even mean that it will be better or worse or not, but it's going to be
Yeah,
different. I think you're absolutely
different.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, very different. And based on what Zaslav has said about like what his goals are with Max and everything, is like I really feel like we're gonna see a very different um slate coming from them in the, probably the next 3 to 5 years. Like it's just gonna be very different. And now with the writer strike, I guess you'd accelerate that. So you're probably gonna see a
Yeah.
lot more reality TV on Max.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Any other thoughts on Succession?
A good show. Like I
The whole thing.
could have
Yeah.
gone way longer, and I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that
Yes, right?
Same.
that
Very
they
Yeah.
wrapped
glad.
this up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have continued watching, but I'm glad they didn't
Yes.
force me to get to a point where I'd stop.
I wouldn't have minded one more season of 10 episodes. But I also do feel like they could not have spun their wheels anymore with the Gojo stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's sort of like, okay, well, what do they do next? And it sort of feels like a denouement. Denouement? I
Yeah.
can't pronounce that word.
No, that's right.
Every time
Denouement. Yeah.
I've read it. But yeah, it would feel like that. And just like a kind of not an afterthought, but an epilogue. And I don't know
Right.
that that's as exciting as like really just like
No,
saying
I love
this is
where
over
they left it.
definitively.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Well, that's Succession, season 4, episode 10, and all 4 seasons done in the books.
We did it.
Can't believe it.
Let's talk about Ted Lasso, season 3, episodes 11 and 12. Also, the last 2 episodes, also in the books. And we get it was a weird jump between episodes 11 and 12, where we had Ted say, Rebecca, I got to talk to you about something. And we go right into a fake out that looks like maybe Ted was over at Rebecca's house and that's what he had to talk about. But no, it was just the pipe broke or whatever. And they had to stay there. And then the real, like, we're not going to show you the moment, but we're going to show you the headline. Ted Lasso is headed back home to the United States. And they didn't even really give us a detail. I was surprised with that. They didn't give us a scenario or give us details. They just basically said, well, you know why he's going. He's going back to be with his family. And we don't know what he's going to do there.
Yeah. I mean, it was, man, both of these episodes are really great. Tom and Ashley, do these 2 episodes feel really removed from the rest of the season?
The last one particularly did for me.
Yeah, the last one particularly felt very different than the rest of the season. I think that this show had the very wonderful but still incredibly difficult problem of creating too many stars.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And having too many people who are just too good at playing their characters. It's like Brett Goldstein, just superstar. And they had no idea what they had. He was writing, and then he was like, I think I'm Roy. And like, here's the thing. And, it's just like, there's so many characters in this show that I think could have really just been like a vehicle for Jason Sudeikis to shine. And all of them, so many of them really kind of became these like incredible series performers. And
Mhm.
even ones that didn't get a lot of screen time, like Danny Rojas got a little screen time in the first season, and then we didn't dig in a lot to Danny, but it's like every time he's on screen, he's just so magnetic, he's so likable, like he's a star. And they just had this embarrassment of riches that made, I think, very difficult for them to juggle in the last season. So I think some of the episodes were a little uneven. And also they just didn't have time to like dive into, like they didn't have time to dive into stuff. And so like the whole relationship with Jack thing felt very compressed.
Mhm.
And then it was over as soon as it started. And like there's
feel
just
like-
a lot of that stuff.
Like in that same vein, like, and I think we've talked about this previously, but it just feels like the character of Rebecca is, up until these last two episodes, has been really checked out. She's been kind
Yeah.
of a plot device, right? She's either been upset that the team's not winning, or she's the wise advisor that everyone goes to for advice. But her whole thing this season ended up being, I'm going to a fortune teller, I can't have kids, ooh, spooky. And then
And then
the ending that she gets,
the ending was that she
Fairy
sold
tale.
49% of the team to the fans, which was cool.
Yeah.
I like
That
that.
was cool.
It's a
But
cool
she couldn't
move.
bear to sell it. Like I
Yeah.
liked that they stayed true to her character, and she said, like, this is my family.
Yeah.
Like, this is my family.
And I guess that's
I
the
wanna stay
connection to
there.
the psychic. Because
Why did it
that's
take her so
family.
long? Why did it take her so long to figure that out? Or
Yeah.
and
It was a
that-
little disconnected.
what gets it is someone buys her pint at the beer or at the pub. Like
Mhm.
it all feels really, really just paper thin with her, which is such a shame because she started off in such a really fascinating position as like a
Uh-huh.
semi-villain turned,
Yeah.
mother of the
They
team.
really tried to make this all happy endings, and
Yeah.
some of that works. I thought the episode 11 with Jamie and seeing his mom
Ugh.
Mhm.
and
Very
all of
good.
that was great. What didn't work for me was Nate coming back as assistant equipment manager. Like that just felt like
Felt very rushed.
we
Yes.
blew Nate's story, and it's like, oh,
Right.
so he's back, but he's not a coach. Like, why wouldn't he be a coach if he's coming back? He's the wonder kid. Like,
Do you
Yeah.
think that
Well, I think they want him to earn it, right? It's like,
sure,
I
but they
get
didn't even
it,
go into
kind
that.
of.
We didn't even see that moment where they told him that he'd have to earn
Yeah.
it back
I'll
or
say that-
anything.
I think in the spirit of this episode, which does have a lot of yada yada yadas, I don't think we would have gotten too much out of figuring out the logistics of it. I think we got into the beat of it, right? Like, hey, I'm coming back. It's the last match of the season. I'll be the grunt guy. And then we even see in the slight flash forward that he seems to be a coach or an assistant coach or something. So
Yeah.
I can see, like, I didn't need to be walked over the finish line on that, but we did skip a lot of like really interesting bits. There's no resolution with the Nate stuff. It's just 3 episodes ago, everyone said, yeah, we wouldn't really care if Nate came back. And now he just came back and we didn't care, which does not feel right. Like,
No.
we need to
It was too
brief
easy.
on this or something.
So it is too easy, but also you have to remember that this is a show about forgiving people for their like mistakes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Sure.
I thought the stuff with Beard was enough. Like I
That
really
was-
liked that.
Yeah.
I liked getting that insight, and it feels like the
Yeah.
team, if Ted and Beard were okay with him coming back, that everybody would be okay, like, because they're all in a place where they're healthy, right? Like, they're engaging with it healthily, and I feel like, there are a lot of, like, conversations that could have been very on the nose that were had about it that I don't know that it would have served the story enough. I do feel like it was rushed, but again, I think that's all very much like an embarrassment of riches where you have so
Yeah.
many people, where you have so many stories to tell that you just run out of time. I have a feeling they really tried to get Jason Sudeikis to come back for a 4th season, and it didn't work out. And so I had heard, or maybe I had read somewhere that, much like Ted Lasso, he missed his kids
Yeah.
in the States. And so wanted to be done playing Ted, and I do think that they open up, they very clearly, like, set up like, just, like, 5 potential spin-off shows in this,
Oh,
but
sure.
one in
Yeah.
which, and he even said, like, they set it up in that at the very end, he's like, I have a problem with the title of, Trent's book. It wasn't
Yeah.
ever about me. And I feel like that was really, like, the writers being like, "It wasn't ever really about Ted necessarily, it's about this family of people, and don't you wanna keep watching them in, The Richmond Way coming this
Yeah.
fall to Apple
An
TV Plus."
anthology series that tells
Right,
character-based
right.
stories without an
Or
overarching plot.
or just, an overarching plot of, like, what does it mean for Richmond to just play soccer? Like,
Yeah.
and having the women's team, like, the women's
Oh,
team
yeah.
and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
all of those things, like, I think are very rich areas for material, and also you can continue that storytelling of, like, there is that beat where they're obviously setting up, like, I really liked that they didn't I love that Keely kicked out Roy and Jamie. She was just like, they're like, "You have to pick one of us right now," and she's like, "Just get out." Like, just, like, kicks
Yeah.
them out,
No,
so
I
they're
don't.
like, "We're
Yeah.
idiots." But
And
I
we don't
also
really end up knowing if she picked one of them.
Yes, and
She's
I think
still
actually
there's
they
yeah.
left that open for a spin-off series where it's like there's gonna be some season finale at the end of the first season where, like, she scares Roy because she's like, "Oh, you're so good at that. One of these days I'm gonna scare you." And I'm like, "Okay, you're like literally that's like a Chekhov's gun comment
Uh-huh.
that I'm gonna hear about 3 seasons from now when they finally, like, there's that moment where she scares him and he realizes, like, "Oh, I gotta marry Keely," and then it's a whole thing.
Ugh,
Sure.
I
Sure.
don't want any of
I
that.
Even if there's no spinoff, I love that they just said, you know what? Keely is her own person, and
Yeah,
she's not defined by whether she picked
by who she
Jamie
chooses.
or
Yeah,
Roy. Yeah,
yeah,
and she
or
can still
anybody
be
else.
friends with both of them, no matter what
Yeah,
she did.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
was
But I
she
think
was
a Richmond
as
series is
frustrated as that
perfect.
at that trope as all of the viewers were at the idea of
Yes.
that trope again.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I but
Yeah.
I really appreciated that, and I think I love these characters very much, and I think we will get some sort of Parks and Rec-esque spin-off from it, and I think it will be very successful. And also, it's a lot cheaper show when you remove Jason Sudeikis from the equation, so it's like, to make the show. So I feel like that's something that Apple would be obviously very interested in. It's very lucrative for them. It's one of their highest rated shows. So yeah, I think that they set up a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it did feel that there were a lot of things that worked for me in the finale, but I watched this entire season like with an understanding that everything was going to feel rushed and unearned. And
Mhm.
so much of it did feel very rushed. And
And
that's a
honestly,
bummer.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that in most of the stories. I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
Ted's story came in for a great landing. I bought every
Yeah.
single bit of it.
I did
Beard's
too.
story
Yeah.
even did. We talked about the deficiencies in Rebecca's, but that was more along like the connectivity. I actually liked where it ended up. I
Mm.
think Nate's is the only one where I'm like, no, he wouldn't be an assistant trainer, even if even if they didn't bring him back as a coach. It would be something else. I don't see him doing that again. That felt cartoonish. But where he eventually ends up, which is looks like he's a coach under Roy,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I absolutely see that. So I thought they brought it in 98% for a good landing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I think that's a good assessment.
yeah. It is tough because the rushingness of it's hard to it's hard to say that the show had to be rushed when they
Mm.
do the full length performance of So Long Farewell. Like there are some questionable uses of time throughout this entire season that probably should warrant just a little extra look at maybe on the Apple side. But it's especially these last 2 episodes really saved me between Ted and his moment with his mom, which is also
Yes,
just another
Oh
we
man.
definitely need to mention. Yeah,
I
is
talked to
a
my
punch.
therapist about that scene.
I you know what I'm right there with you. It was such a good moment. It made me feel like, oh, I wish we had led up to this a little more. It felt like, oh, the mom's here. Now we unveil all of these things. Like Ted and Rebecca are both kind of just paper dolls to me this season a little bit. Like Ted, he's sad about his kid, but we don't get a lot of that. We just hear it, and then
I think we're all a little spoiled watching shows like Succession because it's like this is a sitcom. This is a network sitcom. I'm
We're
very
also
forgiving of
spoiled
it
by
for what it
seasons
is.
1 and 2 of Ted Lasso, where every time I
guess so.
thought, you know what, I'm going to give them a pass and they're going to be lazy this episode, they weren't.
I guess so. I feel like the mom episode is like that's like a very special episode of Ted Lasso. You know what I mean? Like Mom City
Yeah.
was like that episode, and it's
Totally.
like it's fine. I'm fine with it. I forgive it. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, see, I like in the chat. It's like Fearless Freep says a lot of time with Keely for her to not advance only a little. I think
Yeah.
I didn't care for the whole like, oh, I'm dating the billionaire who backs my company like in venture capital, and then she's gonna pull funding and like I don't know. I don't that happened all so quickly and then ended so quickly. It feels like I would have just preferred for Barbara to have gotten a job at KJPR when she's just small.
Yeah.
Like that would have been fine.
It really does. It feels like this is, this huge monumental crash for Keely, and then
Yeah.
we just move on. Oh, just Rebecca will just save your company. Like,
Yeah, but like, why
it's
didn't
tough
Rebecca
because-
invest in the first place? Like, it's weird
because
to
Keely
me. I'm just like,
didn't
wouldn't
need
she?
her to and didn't want her to. That
guess
seemed
so.
clear.
We just don't see a
Yeah.
lot of like Keely being good at the Keely PR company.
Yeah, and we did in the second season, and I like the whole
And
thing
we
with Shandy.
coasted on
It's
that.
like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing with Shandy was like, man, that lasted way too long. Like that should have been a 1 episode or 2 episode, like in and out.
Mhm.
Like, no, she should not have been there for as many episodes because that was just a waste of everybody's time.
Did you catch the Shandy reference in the finale? There was
Mhm.
she was on the cover of one of the magazines.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shandy. Wow.
Shandy. She's a fine girl.
Well,
Any other Ted Lasso thoughts on the full 3-season run?
it could have been way worse. It could have been way, way worse.
First 2 seasons were beautiful, flawless almost. Season 3 came in for a good landing.
Yeah, I think the characters became, and this happens to many very good shows. They became caricatures of themselves.
Yeah.
And also it's like there is that pressure to give the people what they want, like give them more of what they want. Like they want this, and it's like it did feel a little bit like, oh, well, we need to give these characters like what the people want as well as what we want to do. But it's like when you write and these characters become so close to you, it's like, sometimes you don't always make the right choice for them. Like you
it's
want to
hard.
give them a happy ending when they haven't necessarily earned it. I think that's the case with Nate. Like the redemption arc, I think should have started in season 2. If he was going to leave, it should have started, mid to late season 2 but you only have 3 seasons and the seasons are so short. So it's like, it's very hard to tell a redemption story like that.
And they didn't.
In such a short amount of time.
That's what's really frustrating about that Nate story is that unfortunately the actual redemption just gets glossed over.
Yeah.
Right. The redemption part of it actually gets glossed over. It's like, oh, well, we forgive you. Yes. Like I'm kind of back and forth about it because it's like I feel like the redemption story came with him like becoming a human being and like not trying to be important with Jade and like I feel like all of that stuff was really good.
The Jade story part of it was very strong. I like that a lot.
And the stuff with his parents was really good. Like that scene with his dad where he's like, I didn't know how to raise a genius. Like I thought that was really beautifully written.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of kids out there, especially kids of immigrants who can relate to that. And
that sorry.
no, and I feel like a lot of that work was done outside of the Richmond team, but I do wish there had been maybe a couple more scenes with some of the team members and Nate like running into him after he had left Rupert's team and started working at the restaurant or like was just around. I think I would have preferred maybe just 1 or 2 more scenes would have been helpful there. Because really it just became like, oh, they came for lunch for kebabs, and then now it's like, oh, that's really sad. You should come work at the soccer
Yeah.
place again.
And
It's
that's like the first time someone reached
eh.
out. Yeah. Here, okay. How do we feel about Rupert? Because I feel like the whole thing with Nate this season has been, we're gonna show you Nate post leaving Richmond, and you're gonna feel him be humanized.
Mhm.
Mm.
But we still have Rupert, who is the cartoonish villain of this show. And in a show where everyone gets humanized and everyone gets a redemption arc, or at least, brownie points of forgiveness, Rupert is still just kind of the
But
trench coat.
you need that.
Yeah.
You need the counterpoint. So
Also,
it's not
Rebecca
everybody.
told him what to do, and he didn't.
Yeah.
She cautionary tailed him and was like, get it together for her and for your baby. And he
Mhm.
didn't. And so it's like, well, okay, I tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. So I guess you're
Yeah.
gonna get your comeuppance.
It just I do look at a little side eye at the Rupertness of this all. I like this show, and I think one of the things that endears me so much to this show is how much I feel is a connection to it, right? Like I think that the stories are good. I think the
People are real and complicated, and no one's purely good or purely evil, except for
Right.
Rupert.
except for Rupert, and
Yep.
and for a show that's all about saying like, well, people are more than good or evil. I feel like we didn't exactly spend a lot of time trying to suss out who Rupert could
We
have
got that episode where they did the Champions League, that like the Ultra Champions League thing, where like him and Rebecca had a little moment.
been.
Like,
Yeah,
where
they
he was
did a little
humanized there.
humanizing there.
I think we
Okay.
get a little bit of
As much as you're
humanization,
gonna
but
get
it's
with
also
him.
like, but also again, like people are morally gray, but some people are more bad than good and vice versa. And I think that Rupert's just a person who's like 95% not good.
I think you need Rupert to allow you to believe the others.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
need
I think
him as the
that's, yeah, that
contrast.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
All
On
right.
that
Well,
note,
that
friends, I
is
have
Ted
to-
Lasso season 3, episodes 11 and 12. And yes, we're gonna let Ashley go. Thank
don't-
you, Ashley.
I don't want to be spoiled on Silo, so I'm going to
No,
escape
we're not.
before you
It's a
start
good show,
talking
though.
about it,
You
because
should
I've
definitely
heard
watch
good
it.
things about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it, and I've heard it recommended to me more than once, and I'm like, oh man, they're going to talk about Silo. I better get out of here.
Yeah. Better go.
But thanks for having me. This was delightful.
Yeah, and remind people about where they can go to find out about your stuff, like the book.
You can go to ashleyesqueda.com. That's like my website. And I just got all this stuff there. You can go to like Medium or Instagram or Twitter. I'm always posting stuff. I almost never post on YouTube, so I don't make content anymore. I do like video game consulting and writing. But I wrote the Art of Psychonauts 2, and that's coming out this summer. So highly recommend you check that out. It's like $50 to pre-order, and it's like 400 pages of beautiful Double Fine art. So feel free to get into that if you love Psychonauts.
Thank you, Ashley. It's so good to see you.
Bye. So good to see you.
Bye.
See you later.
All right. What's our last one, Tom?
Let's talk about Silo, episodes 5 and 6.
Ooh.
These are The Janitor's Boy and The Relic.
And the relic, yeah.
And the relic being a Pez
Pez.
dispenser.
Tom.
So we get the chief deputy in The Janitor's Boy. So Billings, the guy that they wanted originally as sheriff, gets saddled with him, and he's from Just Judicial, but he's a real nice guy. And then Juliet uncovers some secrets about her ex, who's dead, as she's trying to solve 2 murders now, not just one, because of course the reason you need a chief deputy is the old chief deputy died. Yes, Bryce, you have a question.
Tom, this show, where is this show fitting into you amongst the other shows that you've seen? How can you classify this show between maybe prestige and schlock, or
Oh yeah, it's far
Cartoon
away
or-
from schlock, but it's
Yeah.
not prestige.
yeah?
This is Lost.
Oh yeah, I think that's the one. I really like both of these episodes, 5 and 6. I think these are great. I think I'm in it. It's just I have to be in it from the vantage point of this is like a really, really nice CW show. This might be a really, really, really nice
Well, I wouldn't
Okay,
say
show.
CW only because a lot of people would think you mean teen romance when you say that.
Okay.
But I know what you mean on
There's a cheapness here.
complexity. Yeah.
Yeah, when I think some of it comes out in like the set design, right? You know, the first few episodes, you know, big rooms. We have all of the staircases and all the, we see all the outside and stuff. And now we're in a lot of brown domiciles, and we're kind
Yeah.
of just going from room to room, which is fine. And then I'm into the mystery, and I'm seeing the politicking here, but just shrink it a little bit.
I really loved in The Janitor's Boy the twist where Common realizes, oh, he's pinned it on my guy. That's fine. He shows that his character is an operator when he's like, great, I'll just roll with that, and you'll be my shadow. Do you swear to be my shadow? Great. Then now that you've sworn allegiance to me, I have the right to sacrifice you for the greater good.
Yeah.
Like you could see this whole internal ethics play out with him, and not blink an eye at like, this is how business gets done in judicial. Loved that story. The Relic story, I felt was a little less even. And also at this point, I'm really wanting to start get a few answers. Obviously not all the answers, but a few. Like we started with lots of really interesting questions. You know, why do they send people out to clean? Why are they in the silo? Why are the relics? You know, what was the rebellion? I don't expect to get all those answers, but this was the first episode where I'm like, yeah, but can we move forward a little bit? And it felt like we were spinning our wheels in the Relic.
You know, Tom, when you said that, you gave me a little bit of deja vu because I remembered them saying that exact thing in the show. Oh, aren't there so many wonderful questions that we haven't answered yet? Like what's going on outside? Oh, but the big question is, what if everything was a lie? Come on, it's a suspense show. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, there's only 4 more episodes left too.
What?
In this particular season.
Okay.
And yes, I still don't expect them to answer all the questions this season if they want to have more seasons. I get that. But don't wait until the last episode to give me a big answer. Give me a couple of big answers, or give me a small part of the big answer.
Because I see all the pieces. I see all the pieces. You know, you cannot magnify stuff, so that means they can't really miniaturize things after a certain point. No, automated lifts, so maybe there's a gravity thing, but then we keep seeing people get pushed over. Like there are plenty of great breadcrumbs here, and you're right, Tom. Like I'm worried that this is going to be a slow one of these. This is going to be a bit of a losty sort of slow burn, which I don't love. I don't love that. I think there's really cool stuff here, and I don't need sci-fi Law and Order if you can just give me the good story here. You know?
Yeah, there were some really good parts of the Relic though. As far as like the twist of like, oh, it was her boyfriend's previous girlfriend and she was a relic getter, and the idea that I got it to protect my family members, and that was all nice and thick and juicy, and I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt like the Relic dragged a little bit in a way that the last few episodes have not.
It did, because the revelation of I don't really know what revelation exactly we were supposed to get out of the Relic. You know, like
that.
Judicial's
the only revelation
relics.
I can think of is that I keep calling him the ex-boyfriend,
George Wilkins.
George, is that George? There was more to George than met the eye. We thought George was just interested in uncovering what really happened, why they were really in the silo, and Juliet got pulled into that. And it turns out that maybe it was more than that. That maybe he manipulated Juliet. At least that's certainly what his previous girlfriend accused him of.
At least we're talking about the hard drive again.
Yeah. Let's see what's on that hard drive.
Let me see the hard drive. Come on.
They gave us a great tease in the first episode of like the blinking monitor of the outside, and we haven't touched on a clue about that. So yeah, let me see a piece of data.
It's
I don't have to get it all off. Just show me something.
it's I'm on board, and look, this is why I'm saying this is a CW show. We're operating at a different pace. We're operating at a slightly slower pace. It's a little more soap opera-y.
Yep.
That's fine. I'm on board, but
CW shows are often like that because they need 26 episodes, though. Lost was like that because it needed 26 episodes. Silo doesn't need to do that. So I'm not quite sure why we're doing that.
yeah.
Except, here's my other thought, is that I finished these 10 episodes and I'm like, no, having me chomping at the bit for the answers in episode 6 was exactly what they needed to do to make me so happy when I finally got whatever was coming. So can't really tell until you've seen the last 4 episodes, I guess.
Yeah. It's all potential. There's a lot of potential. We're here because there's potential.
Yep.
I'm in for
Yep.
it.
I am too.
Yep.
All right. That is Silo Season 1, Episodes 5 and 6. Now, as you may have noticed, Succession and Ted Lasso are done. So we won't be watching them next week because there is no more Succession or Ted Lasso. We will be watching Silo, Season 1, Episode 7. We will be watching I Think You Should Leave. In fact, we've all watched it, but we're giving everybody, because there's 6 episodes, another week to plow through them all. And then we'll be talking about all 6 episodes of I Think You Should Leave as one, because you're basically talking about a couple hours worth of content there.
Like 90 minutes.
And on top of that, Miami Vice Season 4, Episode 7, Missing Hours. We're going back to the Miami Vice watches for a special guest, James Brown.
Ow!
Godfather of Soul. So that's Silo, Season 1, Episode 7, the entire 3rd season of I Think You Should Leave, and Miami Vice Season 4, Episode 7. That's going to do it for us. Brian Brushwood will be back next week. Thank you, Ashley Esqueda, again for being with us. Thank you, Bryce Castillo. And until the next episode, spoil yourselves. You deserve it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.